human respiratory system. So what is human respiratory system? It's an organ system which will help in taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. So you have learned all this thing in your previous classes. Let me just go through it. Let us recall the previous classes. So when we talk about the human respiratory system, so which are the organs which comes under respiratory system? So let us see those organs. So first, the organ which helps in respiration is our nose. So we know the nose. So nose has two openings. Nose has two openings called nostrils. Okay, so we have two openings called nostrils, and we take the air through the nose. The air will enter into the nose through the opening called nostrils, and here we have a cavity. This cavity is called nasal cavity. So nasal cavity, actually it is lined with tiny, very tiny hair. We can just say cilia also. Okay, tiny hair-like structure we see. Okay, this hair-like structure which is there present in the nasal cavity. Have you ever thought what is the purpose of the hair that is present inside the nasal cavity? You know very well, when we are taking in air, we are not only taking air, we are also taking the dust particle, and also it will contain the germs. So the dust particles and the germs will be trapped. It will be trapped by the hair-like structure which lines our nasal cavity. Not only that, nasal cavity also produces the mucus. Mucus, you know very well, the sticky substance. The mucus will also help in trapping the dust particle as well as the germs that will be present in the air. And our nasal cavity will be supplied with very fine blood vessels. Okay, these blood vessels are called capillaries. Why we find this blood capillaries is that when we take in air, we may take a very cold air or we may take hot air also. When we take this hot air or cold air, it will not send that air as it is. What this blood vessels will do is, it will adjust the temperature of that air to our body temperature. Only then it will be sent inside. So these things happens in our nasal cavity. So the nasal cavity, you find the hair-like structure, and it also has mucus gland. The mucus gland which will produce the mucus, as well as it is supplied with blood vessels which will help in warming up the air if it is very cold, or it will be bringing down the the cold air. If it is very hot air, it will bring down the temperature of the air. Then it will be sent. So much happens in the nasal cavity. Then it enters the first part of the respiratory system as well as digestive system. You know very well. Pharynx. Pharynx is the first, it's a common passage. Pharynx is a common passage for both air and food. So what is pharynx? Pharynx, remember, it's a common passage. It is a common passage for both food and air. For food and air. Okay, see. So we have here nasal cavity, and this is oral cavity. Oral cavity, you know, the buccal cavity, right? So the air is also entering like this, and the food will also enter. Where it is entering? It is entering here in the pharynx. So here it will come, right? So pharynx is a common passage for both food and air. Now, after pharynx, what is the next organ present? So we finish with pharynx. The air should enter inside the trachea. You can see this trachea. It should enter inside the trachea. So what is trachea? Trachea is nothing but windpipe. Trachea is nothing but windpipe. Okay. Now the question is, the air is also passing through it. common passage, that is pharynx. Foot is also entering in the same passage. See, if this is pharynx, foot is also entering. Air is also entering. Common passage. Okay? And we have trachea here. So this is the windpipe. Okay, you can see the windpipe. The both are entering into the same passage. Don't you think the food will also enter inside, food and water may enter inside the windpipe or the trachea? Yes, possibilities are there. We know very well. Many a time, many a situation when you are while you are eating or talking, or when you drink water, when you laugh, right? Sometimes it will enter inside, right? Inside the windpipe or trachea and start choking, right? Okay. So just now I told you, pharynx is a common passage for both food and air. So now, don't you wonder food should also enter the windpipe or the trachea? It will not happen because here I have not mentioned one more structure which is present on the trachea. See, if this is trachea, so if this is trachea, the windpipe, okay, so this is trachea, the windpipe, just above the trachea, there is one more structure. There is one more structure which is present above the trachea. What is trachea? Trachea is the windpipe. Just above the trachea, there is one more structure present. This structure is called larynx. What is it? It is called larynx. What is larynx? Larynx is our voice box. You can touch and feel it. Whenever you talk, just keep your hand here near the neck region and just make some sound. You can feel the vibration. That vibration is because of the voice box which is present in our throat region, which is present above the trachea. Just above the trachea, we have the larynx. Commonly it is called voice box. Above the larynx, there is one structure. There is a structure called epiglottis. There is a structure called epiglottis. Okay, remember this one. Okay, epiglottis is like a flap. Flap, right? Okay, so imagine if this is larynx. Above the larynx, this flap is there. What is this flap called? Epiglottis flap. It is actually cartilaginous flap. Okay, so this flap is there. So when the foot is passing, the foot will make the flap to close. Okay, whenever food and water is passing, the epiglottis will close the larynx. So the food and water will not enter inside the windpipe. So where is epiglottis present? Epiglottis is present on the larynx. Where is larynx? Larynx is present above the trachea. So what is the function of epiglottis? Whenever the food or the water passes through the pharynx and it should enter the food pipe, it will close. Epiglottis will prevent the entry of the food and the water into the trachea. That is why you are always given a caution. Your parents, teacher, they ask you not to talk or laugh while you are eating food or you are drinking water. What will happen? If not, you don't follow the instruction, there are chances that the water or food will enter inside the trachea and you will start choking. It's a very dangerous situation. Sometimes it will also lead to death. So you should be very careful whenever you are eating food or drinking water. You should not talk, you should not laugh. Okay, understood? So that's about epiglottis and larynx. Okay, now we finish nose, nostril, nasal cavity, pharynx, after pharynx, larynx, after larynx is trachea. What is trachea? It is the windpipes. Okay, so this is how the trachea will be. I just draw here once again for you to understand what is trachea. Trachea is like this. Okay, it looks something like this. It's a tube-like structure. And you can see, whenever we we draw trachea or windpipe, we should always draw the structure. We always write like this structure. That is C. Alphabet C. Okay, one C here, another C is here. Okay, so like this. So this structure we always have to draw. Why we draw this? Because that is how the trachea is present. That is, when you just, if this is one C, one more C, and it is like this. It stays like this. Why? Because this is called cartilaginous ring. It is a cartilaginous ring which will help in keeping the windpipe or the trachea open. Imagine if these rings are not there, if these cartilaginous rings are not there, what will happen? It will collapse. If at all your windpipe should be kept open and it will allow the air to move in and out, it is necessary. What is necessary? This C-shaped cartilaginous ring. C-shaped cartilaginous rings are necessary to keep the windpipe open. And you see this windpipe, it breaks into two branches. And this is called bronchi or bronchus. So the bronchus, that is, the windpipe will break into two branches and each branch will enter inside the lungs. Each branch will enter inside the lungs. The bronchi will enter inside the lungs. And you have to show this line everywhere. Okay, then further the bronchi will break into several branches. The bronchi will break into several branches like this. Okay? It will break into several like this network. Okay? These are called bronchioles. And here also we are showing the same thing. Okay? Understood? So the windpipe breaks into two branches. Okay? And it's called bronchi. Each bronchi will enter into the lungs. Right? So these are the lungs. And here I have showed you the branching of that is bronchioles I have shown. Here this side is also shown. I mean this is both the lungs. So these are the lungs. Both the lungs also the structure is same. Both the lungs the structure is same. Okay. Why here it is not shown? Because to show the lungs are protected. You know, lungs are very, very soft and delicate organ, very delicate organ. So it is protected by the rib cage. You know very well, the lungs are present in our chest cavity. The lungs are present in our chest cavity and they are such a delicate organ. It is protected by rib cage. Okay. To show the rib cage, only one side it is shown, that is the lungs, and it is covered by the rib cage. If you cut the lungs, the inside, this is how it looks. That is the presence of bronchioles. So whatever air you take through the nasal cavity, it will enter the windpipe, then it will enter the bronchus, then it will enter inside the bronchioles. Okay, understood? So the bronchi will branch into or breaks into several networks like this. This is called bronchioles. Okay, understood? And lungs, as I told you, is a very, very soft, delicate structure, delicate organ. It is like a sponge. Lungs are like a sponge. Why lungs are like a sponge? Because what is the function of lungs? The lungs should absorb the air. As it has to absorb air, the lungs are made up of spongy, elastic tissue. Try to understand. Spongy, elastic tissue. Lungs are made up of spongy, elastic tissue. It is spongy and it is elastic. Spongy and elastic. spongy, I told you, because it has to absorb the air. Why elastic? You know, when you inhale and exhale, your chest will expand when you are inhaling. When you exhale, your chest will contract. So it has to be elastic, right? If it is not elastic, how will it expand and how will it contract? So lungs are made up of elastic tissue. We can go and stretch our lungs. We can stretch our lungs. Okay, it will go. Okay, right? You can go and stretch. Okay, so that is, it is made up of elastic tissue, right? So that's about lungs. Then we have this structure here. This structure is called what? Diaphragm. Okay, the diaphragm. Have you heard of diaphragm? Check the spelling there. Diaphragm. D-I-A-P-H-R-A-G-M. That's how you have to pronounce. Okay, diaphragm. And this one I told you, this is rib cage. So what is diaphragm? Diaphragm is a muscular membrane. It's a muscular membrane. This muscular membrane, diaphragm, helps in respiration. Even this diaphragm helps in respiration. The diaphragm is a muscular membrane which separates our chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. Remember, diaphragm is a muscular membrane which separates our chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. Okay, so what is the function of diaphragm? It will also help in respiration other than separating our chest cavity from the abdominal cavity. Once let me tell you the organs of our respiratory system, human respiratory system. So nose will lead to, nose has two opening called nostril. It will lead to nasal cavity. Then the pharynx is a common passage for both food and air. Okay. Then we have larynx. Larynx is a voice box. Then the trachea is a windpipe. Okay. The windpipe will break into two branches, that is bronchus, and each bronchi will enter into each lung. So we have two lungs, okay, and remember the right lung is larger than the left lung. The right lung is larger than the left lung because you know very well this is the place we have our heart. Okay, so heart is situated between the lungs. That's why the left lung is smaller in comparison with right lung. Okay, so each bronchus will enter the lungs. Lungs are made up of spongy, elastic tissue. Then the bronchus will divide into several branches called bronchioles. And each bronchioles you find inside the lungs, we find tiny air sac. Millions of air sacs, numerous air sacs are present. Each bronchiole ends with air sac. It will end with air sac. Okay, so we find air sac. Each bronchiole ends with air sac. This air sac we call it alveoli. What is it? Alveoli. What is alveoli? Alveoli are the structural and functional unit of lungs. Structural and functional unit of lungs. Unit of lungs. That means that is where absorption of oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide takes place in the alveoli. See, if at all we enlarge one alveoli, think this is one alveoli. This is how it looks. Somewhat, you can tell like the cauliflower, the vegetable, right? This is how each, if at all you magnify alveoli, this is how it looks. So you have brought the oxygen-rich air. Oxygen-rich air will enter inside the lungs. It will enter the alveoli there. Okay, and surrounding this alveoli, it will be supplied or it will be surrounded with minute blood vessel. It will be completely surrounded with minute blood vessel. This minute blood vessel we call it capillaries. We can call it capillaries. Okay. These capillaries would have brought carbon dioxide from various cells. From all the cells, the carbon dioxide rich blood will be present in the capillaries and oxygen is present in the alveoli. So what will happen? The carbon dioxide will be sent inside the alveoli and oxygen will be carried by the capillaries. Okay. So and what happens again? The carbon dioxide is given outside. Now let us learn what is the mechanism of breathing. So we learned the respiratory system, right? Human respiratory system we learned. Now let us see the mechanism of breathing. What are the changes takes place when we breathe?